But if they pay into it and get nothing in return, then it's simply shifting expenses. It's simply redistributing income. I'm against that in whole through the government because it becomes a vote buying scheme. Because it starts with the smallest group of people who need help, then it expands to the largest group of people. This lady, the author of this piece, Elizabeth Bruning, says since the idle rich don't need to work to have their money, why do we expect the poor to have to work to have theirs? Well, I would tell you this. It's because the poor need to work to be who they need to be. The idle rich, I wish they would work. You know, I went through a period of my life where I was able to live on cash flow, and I had a lot of it coming in. Didn't have to dip into my savings one bit, and I had enormous amounts of money flowing through my bank account every month, enough to buy, a house every 2 months. And what I became was someone, I went and worked out 2 or 3 times a day. Did I write books? Sadly, I didn't. I found out that it's real easy to become lazy, and I did. I did CrossFit 3 times a day. I visited with some friends, but I wasn't enormously productive, which makes me sad. It makes me very sad. One of the reasons I decided to come back to work, as a matter of fact, is because it is who we are. We are meant to toil. We are meant to be more than someone who sits at home cashing checks. We are meant to contribute. And because I've always dreamt of doing talk radio again, it has always inhabited my thoughts. It's always felt like something I was supposed to do. Do you have those things in your life? Things that you're supposed to do? Things that feel like unfinished business? Do you have those in the back of your mind? Love those things. Follow those things. Find a way to get to those things. So this point of view from this author of the Washington Post embodies the very spirit of the bigotry, the soft bigotry of low expectations. Why should the poor have to work? Because the poor have to stop being poor if they want to succeed in having their kids be non-poor, if they want to live to the fullness of who they are. Now, I'm not here to say that poor people can't be lovely people. I'm not here to say that they can't live beautiful lives with beautiful kids, but they cannot have fullness until they have something that is theirs. And that requires working for something. There is a huge difference between holding in your hand an unemployment check or a welfare check and a paycheck. If you've ever held the two, you understand the difference. You're probably about my age, maybe a little bit younger. I'm 51. Can you take yourself back to the moment? Try to do this. Take yourself back to the moment when you first opened an envelope with a paycheck in it. Not a couple bucks someone handed you for mowing the lawn, or 20 bucks or 60 bucks or however much it was, or your grandpa for going out and tossing hay bales. But I mean an envelope, and you opened it with the smell of the paper, and you pulled it out with the smell of that ink that comes off of checks that have been sealed in an envelope, and there is your name for services rendered. So different from allowance, so different from welfare, so different from government cheese. These are experiences that we should bless upon people who are poor, that we should wish for, that we should push for, because it leads to moments that are extraordinary if you're willing to open eyes, open hearts. You know, when I left Microsoft and I was out on my own, and, those are scary times. Am I going to be able to make money? Am I going to be able to actually make this company work? Am I really worthwhile while I'm building this company? Are people really going to pay me a lot of money to consult with them? Is someone really going to pay me X amount of dollars per hour to give them advice for their businesses? Am I really that good? Right? Was it just the Microsoft name that allowed me to have success, or do I really have good ideas? It's an enormous moment of self-doubt. Have you had those moments? When I went to the point where I got clients, after having left Microsoft, was putting together this new startup I wanted to do and funding that out of my pocket, I went and signed up for healthcare. I went and bought health insurance. I purchased it from Costco, which, by the way, used to have a great small business healthcare insurance program because the Microsoft stuff had run out. And I remember walking by my daughter's bedroom and looking in and seeing her asleep and realizing, honey, If something, God forbid, goes wrong, I've got you covered. I bought you health insurance. I bought it just now. You're covered. And it was a feeling of achievement. What this lady in this Washington Post piece is wishing upon poor people is never having that feeling of achievement. So what she criticizes is the work and welfare requirements. What she's criticizing is getting people a sense of momentum. If you have to work through welfare, you're working. The hardest part is getting started. The hardest part of the workout is the first 5 reps. The hardest part of the run is the first quarter mile. When you're depressed and you're sheltering in your cave and you want the darkness and you want to be away from friends, you crave that darkness. The hardest part is opening the door, calling a friend. Hey, I really need someone. But it creates momentum. You're out of the house. You forget how good it feels to be in the world. This lady with the Washington Post does not understand these dynamics because I'm guessing she's never lived these dynamics. So much of the left's theory comes from people who've never lived through the struggle. They read about it in books, which is very much like you and I looking at an animal in a zoo, thinking we understand the cheetah. We don't understand the cheetah. We can observe the cheetah. We do not understand the cheetah. Black elk. You know what black elk discovered? Fascinating man. Black elk was 5 years old when the war between the natives and the Americans really began to take hold for the Oglala, the Lakota people. They'd been kind of insulated from that, like the Comanches had been. They were far enough west, but the white people began to show up in earnest. And there were the debates. The Lakota people debated whether there was honor in fighting the whites. What they debated, were the whites actually human? Perhaps they're spirits. Perhaps they're vengeful spirits. Perhaps we, the Lakota, have brought this upon ourselves. He witnessed those debates as a young man. He was born at a time when the Lakota people were still free. They still hunted freely. They were still kings of the plains. He lived to see every one of them on the reservation. The first to go, in his memory, was Red Cloud's people. Red Cloud had been a warrior, but then he was taken to Washington, D.C., and Red Cloud looked and saw the ships. He measured one of the guns, one of the cannons with his fan, and he turned. He said nothing, but he went home and he said, "We cannot win." Hence, the Red Cloud Agency was born. So Black Elk saw the people become what he called the Agency Indians. Do you know what he said in this book? In 3 winters, he saw his people changed. Their countenance changed. Now, living on a reservation, feeling locked in and being a prisoner when in fact you were a prisoner, that'll change you. But they still had the prairies. They still had horses. They did not have guns. They were told to farm. They were given meat. They were given beans. They were given farming implements. At that time, they were not hurting for food. In 3 winters, Black Elk saw a smaller people. He saw people who had given in to sustenance living. And at that young age, Black Elk understood, oh, the enemy has tamed my people. The enemy controls my people. For now, they need the handouts. This is something this writer, Elizabeth Bruning, from the Washington Post, cannot understand, and a connection she cannot draw. We are not meant to be kept and fed by hand. We're meant to toil. And if a work and welfare requirement can help people to toil, it is something we should wish for them. For the idle rich, if you have ideas on how to encourage toil with them, I'm all ears. But I don't know that I'm sending money to them every month. And I'm not particularly worried about them. I've never been idly rich in that way. I've been poor. And I've lived on cash flow. And I know they're both the same temptation, which is to sit and take and not return. We'll come back on the Todd Herman Show, get into just a few more things, an arrangement of news-like items laid out upon a plate before. Really smart. He brought together Democrats and Republicans because Democrats intend to die on keeping the wall from being built. They intend to push the DACA reform constantly because it's voter turnout for them. The president began by speaking very poignantly of something that in our hearts we know is true. Cut the debt until we can agree that the debt needs to be cut, and there's many on the left who want to pretend it never needs to be cut. And there's many on the right who pretend that a 1% decrease in the planned increase in spending is somehow a spending cut. The president spoke of the way the system is set up today.
Our system is designed right now that everybody should hate each other. And we can't have that. You know, we have a great country. We have a country that's doing very well in many respects. We're just hitting a new high on the stock market again. And that means jobs. I don't look at the stocks. I look at the jobs. I look at the 401ks. I look at what's happening. The country is doing well in so many ways, but there's such divisiveness, such division. And I really believe we can solve that. I think this system is a very bad system in terms of getting together. And I'm going to leave it up to you, but I really believe you can do something to bring it together.
And look, the president's saying about DACA, about the wall, you guys do this. You guys work this out. I'm leaving it to you. I don't think we need to hate each other in this process. Now, in the room, the Democrats sort of played along with this. Out of the room, you had Chucky Schumer out saying that the wall is medieval. You had Nancy Pelosi out saying it is a testimony to hate, an icon to hate. And the president also spoke about putting the country before something else.
I'm appealing to everyone in the room to put the country before a party and to sit down and negotiate and to compromise, and let's see if we can get something done. I really think, Dick, that we have a chance to do it.
He's speaking to Dick Durbin, who was in the room. Durbin is so aware. If you watch the video, and I rarely tune into political videos. I prefer to read transcripts so I'm not distracted. But if you tune into the video, the Democrats couldn't be less comfortable. They couldn't be less shocked. They were looking for the Donald Trump who was going to fly off the handle. They were looking for the Donald Trump from the old WWE wrestling days. They were looking for that man, but this is a man who absolutely can make deals. I am thrilled with this meeting. I am thankful for this meeting, and to see CNN's Dana Bash have to say, well, this is what we thought Donald Trump is capable of. The Democrats have a problem here. Dick Durbin, though, has been around. He's a longtime swamp creature. He shifts his tone. What he does is very clever.
Lives are hanging in the balance of our getting the job done. We've got the time to do it. In a matter of days, literally of days, we can come together and reach an agreement. And when that happens, I think good things will happen in other places. And we'll see some more progress here in Washington.
And he says lives are in the balance. This is so smart because he's trying to reinsert the sense of urgency, but he's pretending that lives are only in the balance in one way. It is true. It is true that there are kids brought here through no issue of their own. They did not make a decision. They were little kids when they were brought to our country. We, as conservatives, can take a breath and say, yep, they did not bring themselves here. We can also be very realistic and say, and some of them shouldn't be allowed to say. Some of them are criminals. Some of them are violent. Okay? They need to go. Sorry. You're not a citizen. You're criminally violent. You're gone. Not fun, but pragmatic and realistic. The other thing that we can do is, from a policy perspective, understand there are ways to let people stay and not give the Democrats a voting block, which is why they've been allowed to stay. Barack Obama has no particular concern about immigration being solved. He never did. If he had, he would have done that when he owned the House and the Senate and the Supreme Court. He would have done it then. He didn't, because this is a battle they constantly want. Steny Hoyer makes a fascinating claim about border security during the meeting.
Democrats are for security at the borders. I want to state that emphatically. There's not a Democrat that is not for having secure borders. There are obviously differences, however, Mr. President, on how you affect that. You just indicated that yourself. And you indicated this would be a first step, and then we continue to talk, as we're talking today, about how we best secure the border. There are differences of opinion within your party and within our party.
So the president is set on the wall, and I imagine if someone came and said and showed him statistically, scientifically, here's a way to do it cheaper than the wall, here's a way to do it that is not going to be held up in court, because I firmly guarantee you, the Democrats are all of a sudden going to be concerned about eminent domain. The same Democrats that love eminent domain for choo-choo trains like Sound Transit, all of a sudden they're going to say, this is the people's land. We can't take the people's land. We can't do this to the farmers and the rangers of Texas. And you'll have Steny Hoyer out there wearing a cowboy hat, but backwards because he doesn't know how one works, and cowboy boots, but on the wrong foot because he's not a real... Steny Hoyer, I love me the rangers. I love it when they herd them their bison, and the bison go out on the fields and they eat that there high, and that alfalfa. I love the smell of the alfalfa in the morning when you get out in your Ford F-75 and herd them bison. They're going to take to suddenly, because you're going to be talking about eminent domain to states like Texas, etc. They're in trouble with this meeting. The president makes a point that, look, you have to have a wall if you want border security.
The ICE officers and the Border Patrol agents, I had them just recently up. They say if you don't have the wall, in certain areas, obviously, that aren't protected by nature, if you don't have the wall, you cannot have security. Just can't have it. It doesn't work. And part of the problem we have is walls and fences that we currently have are in very bad shape. They're broken. We have to get them fixed or rebuilt.
Throughout this meeting, the president was absolutely presidential. Throughout this meeting, he was in fact deferential, but did not back off from his campaign promises and from how he speaks on the campaign trail. I'm firmly thrilled. I'm firmly of the mind that this puts the Democrats in a terrible position. The president has shown, I am open. I am willing to negotiate. I am willing to find a way to get this done. He has showed it for everybody to see. And now, if there's a government shutdown, in my judgment, unless the Republicans do what they are specially calibrated to do, which is to grab victory, probably grab defeat from the jaws of victory, which Mitch McConnell is waiting in the wings to do, this is going to be a major victory. So after all of this tone setting, after all of this discussion, after all of this negotiation, up stage steps Chucky Schumer. Peacemaker.
Nothing to this but politics. We Democrats are willing, able, and eager to work with our Republican colleagues and the administration on smart, effective border solutions. There may be a few defined places where a secure fence makes sense, but a medieval wall, which you can't see through, across the length of the southern border will not make us any safer. Walls can be scaled over. Walls can be tunneled under.
So you can't build anything because someone could get around it. So keep it an open field, because you can't tunnel under an open field. That's when you know you've just lost the argument. Don't make it harder to get around because you can tunnel under it or go over it. What about an open field? It's hot. The borders, it's hot. No one's going to get sunburned. They don't even have sunscreen. It's not, not possible. Very good move by the president. So, I'm the one who's nutty, right? I'm the one who sees something going on in the sexual left that's not going on. Okay. We'll come back on the Todd Herman Show. How do you like a erotic publication for gay men promoting a 9-year-old so-called trans girl dressed up in sexy lingerie-type clothing to sell sexy underwear to gay men? Now, we'll come back and talk about that, as well as what the founder and head of this site says about efforts to shame him for promoting what I contend to be pedophilia. I think you'll agree if you want to go look at the picture. We'll come back on the Todd Herman Show on AM 770 KTTH on the Greater East Side, 94.5 FM.
Crash in Seattle. The co-worker involved in this harassment was fired, but the manager was transferred to another department. The death toll in Southern California has now risen to 13. A powerful storm caused flash flooding overnight on hills already bare following last month's wildfires. That led to mudslides. At least 50 people have been rescued so far. Another 300 are stranded in just one neighborhood in Santa Barbara County. We know it's a bad habit, but a new study shows just how addictive smoking really is from that very first puff.
British researchers analyzed data drawn from 215,000 people in 4 countries, including the U.S. They found that 3 out of 5 people who tried a cigarette just once rapidly became daily smokers. It's the first time tobacco's highly addictive qualities have been documented with such a large set of data, underscoring the importance of prevention. Vicki Barker, CBS News, London.
Look at your drive now. Here's Cairo Radio real-time traffic.
And King County Roads just tweeted at me saying, hey, we've had some lane closures and delays for the next 2 hours or so on Novelty Hill Road near West Snoqualmie Valley Road. Crews are responding to an emergency tree issue, and I'm just going to tweet out this picture and let you take a look at that. It's Tracy T traffic. Yeah, that's going to be a problem for drivers, no question about it. We got a new problem on North 95 at Mercer with a crash there that's taking up the left lane. You're also going to find the drive to be a little on the slower side. We've got reports of a crash that was on Route 162 and that was heading eastbound out near Orville Road. That has now been cleared out of the way. We are looking at problems for drivers, including drive times, and that's Seattle to Everett is sitting at about 88 minutes. This is not looking good, guys. It's going to be one of those days. Redmond to Seattle at 43 minutes. Our drive right now from Renton heading into Auburn is still going to take you well over a half an hour. Traffic is brought to you by the Timeshare Exit Team. Time changes everything, like your ability to use your timeshare. If it no longer works for you, call 844-976-EXIT or visit timeshareexitteam.com. Cairo Radio real-time traffic. I'm Tracy Taylor.
We'll have some showers and some drizzle into early on Wednesday morning. The active weather taking a short break. Low temperatures starting off in the low 40s. High temperatures in the mid 40s with rain increasing late in the day Wednesday. I'm Cairo 7 Chief Meteorologist Morgan Paul.
Raining in 46 outside the Carter Subaru Studios now. I'm Kim Shepard.
Ring My Bell is brought to you by Muckleshoot Casino, the biggest and best in the Northwest.
You can ring my bell. You can ring my bell. Rachel Bell.
Rachel's here. Let's find out who's ringing her bell.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island.
So a Starbucks is going into Yosemite National Park, everybody. And nearly 10,000 people have signed a change.org petition saying that this does not belong in a national park. There shouldn't be a national chain in a national park. Multinational corporations have no place in our national parks. The petition says the park will lose its essence, making it hardly distinguishable from a chaotic and bustling commercial city. Now, Yosemite Hospitality Marketing Manager Lisa Cesaro told the Fresno Bee that this petition will not stop the plan from moving forward. She says, we are trying to enhance the visitor experience. This is just one of many improvements we will be making in coming years. So I wonder, like, does this bother you? This is not, from my understanding, this is not a freestanding Starbucks that's just like in the middle of the park. They're not putting it on the top of El Capitan. I think it's in either, like, it's in the lodge, the visitor center kind of thing. There's a Starbucks in there. So I don't know if there's going to be a sign on the outside that says Starbucks or if you have to go inside to find it. Does this bother you?
No. I mean, it's reliable coffee. If they're not built, like you said, if it's like out in a scenic, like I was thinking not Yosemite, but like Yellowstone, if it's like by the geyser, then no, you obviously wouldn't do that.
Like the geyser's just made of hot coffee now?
Exactly. But if it's in a building where there's already a coffee shop and you're like, boy, we've had problems with the reliability of the coffee shop or whatever, we want to enhance, get a little more reliability or a little more, I don't know, profitability in installing it there. I don't know.
Frappuccino-ability.
That's right.
No. It's kind of, I'm reading a book right now called Big Burn.
And it's about Teddy Roosevelt back in the early 1900s. And it talks about how Mount Rainier actually became Mount Rainier. In fact, there were 2 original parks, and Mount Rainier was one of those. And then there was a huge forest fire in 1910. So if you're looking to read an interesting book, Timothy Egan has written a book called The Big Burn, and I would suggest that. But it's kind of interesting when you go back to these parks. One of the problems that they've always had is conservation in these parks and protecting these parks. And even back then, they didn't have any forest rangers, so they made all these. Teddy Roosevelt, by executive order when he was the president, along with John Muir,
Heard of him.
Yeah, made a lot of executive orders about what you could and couldn't do in these parks. But they had to go to Yale, find 20 young men. They became the first forest rangers, and they went out in these parks and tried to protect these forests from a lot of the land barons and timber barons, and they were unable to do so. And one of the interesting things about a lot of these parks today is they say a lot of these parks, people don't have, we talked about this before, especially people that are minorities, don't have access to these parks. And I'm just wondering if Starbucks would want to get involved with finding ways to provide more access for a lot of minorities out there, and also find better ways for us to conserve these parks before these parks are gone, because we're still not doing a very good job of conservation in a lot of our national forests, and we need to do that. So
yeah, I'm curious if there's something that Starbucks can do, and if they'd be willing to do that. It seems like they would, because my knee jerk is, oh no, I don't want this corporate sign up in a national park. But like we're saying, if it's hidden away in the lodge, then what's the difference of seeing that sign or seeing like Grizzly Coffee? I don't know what the difference is. But you're right, because, you know, a lot of people, including myself, are concerned right now that they're talking about tripling the entrance fee to getting into national parks. And then I read an article, which I talked about on this segment, that said that's actually not even going to make a difference if they do that. What will happen is that'll make it inaccessible to a lot of people, and it won't make a big difference in what the parks need right now to survive. That money isn't enough, and it's not being directed the right way. So
I would imagine there's a national park out there somewhere that has a Subway or a hamburger
huge
place
corporations
I don't know.
have always had access to these parks. And you just don't know it because a lot of these huge corporations run cattle through a lot of these parks. Or a lot of these huge corporations have timbered in these parks. If Starbucks wants to go in and help conserve and preserve and provide access.
But that's not what they're doing yet.
And just serving a cup of coffee. Well, that would be the deal, though, right? Hey, let's sit down, because there's tens of millions of acres of national park. Hey, if you want to serve a cup of coffee, that would be great for our parks, for people who like a cup of coffee. But here's what we would like from you in return. And I think Starbucks would probably like that. They'd love that for their image, wouldn't
I feel like that. I know I didn't read anything about that, but that would have been an amazing deal to be like, look, here's the rent, and then on top of that, you give us this amount of money for conservation, and then you get to publicize it all over the place. Yeah, I understand the fear, because it's like kind of a slippery slope notion, because these parks have been designated national parks, but then there are a lot of people who want to take that back, and there's a lot of land, all over the world that's getting ruined, that is beautiful. And so it's like, well, if we let a Starbucks come in, then what's next? An outlet mall? Like, what's going to happen? So I don't know if that's like something that can happen, because that would worry me. It's like you do want it to still stay a natural experience, and part of the reason, when I go camping and go to a national park is I'm trying to escape everyday life. That's why, do you remember that book, or it was started as a website, like what white people like or what white people do? And one of the things was camping, because it's like a lot of people who are not white are like, seriously, why do you want to go lay in a tent on the dirt? And it's like, for me, that makes me feel like I can get back to myself in my head. I don't want to go online. I don't want to see a Starbucks. I want to go to the Grizzly Coffee Lounge or whatever. So maybe it's just distracting, because you're trying to get away from that, and then it just hits you in the face when you think that you're escaping and you're in the middle of nature.
Yeah. What else is going on?
All right, there's line bikes, there's OFO bikes, what's the other one called? Spin. These are all bike shares in Seattle right now, which basically means it's pretty cool. Like, at least for line bike, you get the app. It costs $1 to use this bike for half an hour. You can park them anywhere. And part of that problem is that they are parked everywhere, and people are piling them up and throwing them in the street and throwing them in Green Lake and taking them on ferries. But the news is right now that Lime Bike is announcing Lime E, which is their electric bike line, and this is going to be coming to Seattle soon. It's slightly more expensive. Instead of $1 total for a half an hour ride, this costs $1 to unlock the bike, and then another $1 for every 10 minutes you're riding. But this combats one of the problems. There's many problems with these shared bike systems, and one of them is you can't ride them up hills because, it's not like these guys out on their spandex who are commuting every day who have this amazing light bike that has a bunch of gears on it. The Lime bike does have gears. I've ridden them many times and I love the Lime bike, but I can't go to most parts of town on it. I just take it on the Burke-Gilman. I take it in
It's got
Ballard and
solid
Fremont.
tires, so you feel every little bump.
Yeah, and this goes 14.5 miles an hour so that you can actually get up some hills. And then OFO is offering free bikes in January. I imagine because nobody's riding them because it's raining. That's another problem. Yet at the same time, I read that they are trying to expand its fleet. They are capped at 4,000 bikes. We don't need any more. I am not anti these bikes at all. I think they're great, but I think there's too many. And there's too many hills, and there's too much rain in Seattle.
You can ring my bell, Rachel Bell.
In general, I think we should mow down the hills. I think we should turn off the water.
Yeah, do you think there's people that place these bikes? Because I see them in perfect placement now in my neighborhood. At the
All
top,
lined up.
At the top of all these hills. And there's like a corral of them.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, though, someone corralling the bikes?
I haven't seen it happening, but I think it makes sense because otherwise they're all at the bottom of hills.
Yeah.
And then they all end up, I see a million of them, at Green Lake or whatever. And then you can't get one just like to ride around a neighborhood because they're all smushed up in the same spot.
You can tell when people have actually been riding them because if you go to a baseball game or you go to a football game down in Soto, there'll be like 200 of them just piled on top of each other, and people just get there, they drop them, and they go in the stadium. And then they don't necessarily ride them home because
I never ride them home.
You're going back up a hill, right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Hey, Rachel, thanks for that. If you have an idea that either for Ring My Bell or for a feature, you can reach
Communication with the show. Remember, the email's therman@ktth.com. You can always tweet me. In fact, you want to talk eloquence in brief? I'll give you a tweet. Eloquence in brief. Well done. That'll lead us off. We come back on the Todd Herman Show. Right now, we'll check traffic with Right Way Traffic.
There's a new crash on SeaTac to warn you about. Southbound I-5 at Columbian Way. A couple of cars blocking the left lane while you're backed up to 85th. Crash cleaned up northbound I-5 approaching I-90 and 405 southbound. Stop and go out of Bellevue from Northeast 12th Street out to Coal Creek Parkway. This traffic report is brought to you by Phillips Law Firm. If you or a loved one have been injured in a car accident, call Phillips Law Firm today for a free case evaluation. Call 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com. You're listening to AM 770 KTTH.
It's never been more important than now to listen to Rush.
What is one of the big claims in this Wolf book? And that is that Trump never wanted to be president, right? Okay, fine. Then why was Trump colluding with the Russians to tilt the election against Hillary? If that's true, why would he have risked his business and his brand to collude with the Russians to win the election he didn't want to win? It doesn't add up.
On AM 770 KTTH.
There's a team of people sitting there right now, professionals from the insurance business who left working for these agencies to start a company called First Mark Insurance. They're busy helping other people, but they're ready to help you do something very, very cool. And that is to save money on your insurance. This is for your business, your life, your home.
Veteran or active military, and one of your goals in
I'm Bob
2018
Richards, and I'm
is
certified
buying a
financial
home
planner,
or
Andy
looking
Smith.
into a
We're the
refinance. Best Mortgage, they are the VA loan experts, and Steve Teichler, you will help all of our veterans and active military take advantage of that benefit that they have earned.
Dory, as you know, we love the military, and we love helping them take advantage of the VA loan program because it's such a great deal. You can buy a home with no money down. And if you already own a home, you can do a cash-out refinance up to 100% of your home's value. And you can pay off a second mortgage if you have one, other debts, and wrap it all into one fixed-rate loan.
And I know for our veterans who have an FHA loan, you can help them refinance into a VA, save a lot of money.
That's right. Unfortunately, some banks and mortgage companies don't offer the VA loan, and they've put our veterans into FHA loans, which is a bad deal. Get out of that mortgage insurance premium. Call us, and we'll get you into a VA loan.
Give them a call, 425-649-6000. Best Mortgage, 425-649-6000.
Last year, an aviation medical examiner revoked my pilot's license. At 367 pounds, I was grounded.
With obesity, it's easy to lose everything, except the weight. But Franciscan Center for Weight Management ranks among the top programs for weight loss surgery outcomes in the Northwest.
I had my surgery in January, and by April, I was flying again.
Find out more at our free physician-led seminar. Go to franciscanweightloss.org for dates. CHI Franciscan, Northwest Healthy.
hear from my good friends at Keel Mortgage if you're thinking about buying a house, or you're thinking about selling a house, or you're thinking about refinancing a house, or you're thinking about getting a reverse mortgage or buying a house with a reverse mortgage. You just have some questions. Pick up the phone, give them a call today at 1-888-778. That's KIEL, 1-888-778-KEEL. Here's the thing that I found to be very helpful is they have something called a Keel Mortgage Learning Center. And when you jump online and you look at the Learning Center, there's some things where, for instance, like your parents, they always had a 30-year mortgage, didn't they? I don't even know if I'm going to be around in 30 years. So do I want a 30-year mortgage? Why are you laughing at me? Could be true. Who knows? Maybe you want a 15-year mortgage. Or maybe you want a 10-year mortgage. Does that sound kind of weird? Or maybe you want something in an arm right now. What does that mean? Go to the Learning Center right now. You can find out more. And the cool thing is you just click on little videos, and then Laura Keel will come on with her really cool Seahawk hair, and she'll explain stuff to you. She's a really great ballroom dancer, too. I saw her dancing at the Keel Mortgage Christmas party. She was amazing. Go to keelmortgage.com right now or call them at 1-888-778-KEEL. That's KIEL. They've been here for decades. They'll be here for decades more. Keel Mortgage, CL5 3969.
Email me, Herman at kTTH.com. You can go to the Facebook page or you can use Twitter. Earlier in the show, we talked about a piece in the Washington Post where a woman says, since the idle rich don't have to work, the poor shouldn't have to work. The idle rich don't have to work for their money. The poor shouldn't have to do any work related to welfare. We had a long discussion on this where I pointed out that the idle rich, A, are not draining our economy. B, that they can take care of themselves. And C, that for poor people, the work requirement is a jump start at life. It is a momentum builder to achieve, to have your own property, your own job, your own company, and the dignity that comes with that, and the modeling for your kids that comes with that. We are meant to toil. That was my point of view on her editorial. Brilliant response on Twitter from, I think I tweeted, Andrew, great listener, great helper to the show, by the way. Life tip. Poor is a state of mind, so is wealthy. Broke can be fixed, and rich will fix itself if you have a poor state of mind. If you don't know the value of self-control, the value of money is worthless. Government stopped teaching civics and household management for a reason. And we talked about the fact that I was reading also at the same time as I read that, well, not simultaneously, but at the same moment I was reading the Washington Post piece. I was reading a book by in the words of Black Elk. It's sort of an addendum to Black Elk Speaks. He watched free Native Americans, free Indians, in his case the Oglala Lakota, known as the Sioux people, become agency Indians. He said in 3 winters, they forgot who they were. In 3 winters, they became subjects, and it terrified him. Back to email from Kirkland Bruce. Dear Todd, if you have a moment, check out the pre-filed bills awaiting action in the new Democrat-controlled legislature. I'm most wary of HB 2294, sponsored by one of the idiots from my district, Vandana Slatter, which intends to bind us to the carbon and greenhouse gas emission limits of the Paris Climate Accord. Just the kind of vehicle Sleepy J would grab onto as a launch pad for his carbon schemes. The public would be well served to consider the Seattle sugar tax when they hear all the promises of how funds from a carbon tax would benefit people. Sugar tax devotes $2 million to help the poor eat a more balanced diet with more fruits and vegetables. Of the $2 million, only $400,000 goes to the poor. The rest pays for 6-figure staffers and their offices, vehicles, computers, etc. Typical. Also, did you see Dory's hit piece today on my favorite self-aggrandizing, ultra-partisan chipmunk? What a phony. Makes me look forward to opening my email so I can read the latest installment of the Ferguson file. Yeah, we call him Sideshow Bob. And I noticed the same thing, the gross